if you're asking us specifically, team, right? But like Des says, for other people, you have to, it's better you do it solo if you haven't got a positive team around you. Can your business run without you?
Yeah.
And that, if you set that as your goal, then everything else flows from that.
Yeah.
We have to be thinking long term
have
as part
to.
of the foundation that we're talking about. And there are certain things, if you take that foundation and then you go and sell it off, the foundation's not there anymore.
It's gone.
Because, you know, you can't let other people tell your story because it's going to change.
So just going back to PCB, that's a powerful story there.
Yeah.
It's something that the next generation and the generation after that can look at and go, that's our people there that started something.
Yeah.
And you can see what they've started. It's powerful. And what they've started is like somebody said yesterday, it's really just the beginning.
Just the beginning. Welcome to the Business of Church podcast, where business meets ministry, and we meet some incredible guests from the business and also the Christian community. We are doing something a little special this episode, and I will be interviewing your hosts, Des Stewart and Cory Belfon, so you can glean some insights from the founders of this podcast. You're in for a treat. Hi guys, I'm excited about this episode because we are coming full circle. Can you believe this is episode 12?
Is it?
Yes.
I've had so much fun. I thought it was episode 10.
It's episode 12, the last episode, and we are flipping the script a little bit and having our hosts, Cory Belfon and Des Stewart, as the guest today. So if you guys have been watching the podcast from the beginning, the first episode was actually you guys, but it was audio only, so people may have missed it. Now, the whole reason we have this podcast is largely, yes, it's the business of church, but you guys are the entrepreneurs, the business minds behind it. And I think that people just need to get a little bit of insight into your mind, your entrepreneurial spirit, and glean from your wisdom. And so that's what we're going to do. But before we get into the meat of it, tell me, what have you thought of the series so far? You know, what have been your, you know, we can't really say favourites, but, you know, what bits have really stuck out for you? You know, what are your thoughts?
For me, it's how similar people think. You know, when you boil everything down and everybody's coming from their different positions, when you sit down and have a conversation, you realise how similar people tend to think about sort of key issues. And everybody kind of wants the same thing. It's just, you know, figuring out what it's showed us, or certainly showed me, is just, you know, the issue is figuring out how we work together. Ultimately, that's what the sort of challenge is. You know,
I like the idea of what you've actually said there. Certainly, when you think about the challenges that every church is going to face, and whether or not it was a pastor or a leader of some description from within the faith groups, and we've had many, as you've seen over the period. You know, they all spoke about that challenge. The thing is, they all get it as leaders, but I don't think it always transcends down well to the members. And, you know, I'd like to know that a lot more members were actually watching our podcasts as well, because they would understand the responsibility that they have as individuals in terms of helping the overall cause. You know, but I say there was one person that sort of stood out for me, and maybe because he was just very young, and I was very impressed by him. The young pastor from over
At 2.0.
There was just something really dynamic about him, and I loved his story. You know, from sort of atheist, total non-believer, right the way to, you know, being a pastor, but still understanding that as an individual, he still has flaws.
Yes.
And if not with the right checks and balances,
Yeah.
you know, he could find himself going down the wrong road.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
That,
you remember it?
Yeah.
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 That is the part that you just mentioned that also sits with me. That
Yeah.
particular part where it's like, look, it kind of reminds me of what we was talking about earlier. You know, your past and how much of your past, you know, is present right now,
Yeah.
even though
Yeah.
you're on a different path.
Yeah.
But you know, that being cognitive of the fact that, you know what, if I don't check myself, I'm fallible. I'm human.
Absolutely.
Well, you know, so.
Yeah.
You know, too much. And I do think sometimes, and, you know, like what we was kind of raising our eyebrows about earlier in terms of sometimes, you know, these pastors can build this sort of facade around them, this, you know, layers of PAs and assistants and different types of scenarios around them. And it's exactly. And,
Yeah.
you know, but hey,
Yeah.
I guess it's always been there.
Yeah, and what I love about what you're saying is the humanity, and people want to see that we're actually humans,
Yeah.
like we're flawed.
Yeah.
And even yesterday, I was reading a chapter in John, and it said that if we say we have no sin, we're liars.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we forget that, and so I think that has been one of the most beautiful things. Seeing actually you have these pastors and leaders, but we're human.
Yeah.
And actually, we're still grappling with stuff.
Yeah.
And
Saying that as well, there was the pastor, American guy with his wife, Pastor
Oh yes, Michael and Michelle.
Michael and Michelle, man.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, both of them are great.
yeah.
Michael just had so much raw emotion.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, when you look
Yeah.
for when
Yeah.
he talked
They
about
actually
his
took me
origin
down.
story.
They took me down an emotional path in that.
Yeah. I think sometimes the emotion comes from when you see yourself in people.
Yeah.
You know, and he spoke quite candidly about his sort of past, his
Yeah.
demons and so on, and so it makes it a lot easier to see those demons in others.
Yeah.
And feel for where they are.
Yeah.
So we've had some really good people
Really
on the podcast,
Yeah.
and you know, thank the team for making all that happen. So.
It's been great.
And certainly I
Loved
want to
it.
thank each and every one of them for taking the time out and coming down here.
Yes.
Absolutely, it's
Yeah.
been great. I have to say I've learned something from each and every one of them,
Absolutely.
which is really
Absolutely.
good.
Absolutely. But we don't just do the podcast, we're actually out in the community as well. So
Yes, indeed.
last night was one for the books.
Oh yes,
Definitely
yes.
one for the books. And I think it's relevant to the business of church.
100%.
Absolutely relevant.
Yeah.
PCB.
Yeah, so we went to the launch of Pentecostal Community Bank,
Yeah.
formerly Pentecostal Credit Union,
Yeah.
the only black-owned bank in this country. You know, that's significant.
Community bank.
Community bank.
Well, let me just say, actually,
This country.
do you remember, actually, if I'm not mistaken, our second podcast was with Shane
Yeah,
Bowes.
it was.
Who's CEO of the bank.
It,
Yeah.
it absolutely
And I
was.
think, I don't know if it was you or me that asked him the question about, you know, you're a credit union at the moment, but what's your strategy in terms
Roadmap,
of, or roadmap in terms of becoming a bank? Is that on the agenda? And I think because was it about 18 months ago?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
and that was probably the early stages of
Yeah.
them actually thinking about it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I remember him saying something about like this sort of when I asked him about imposter syndrome, and he was talking about, you know, some of the plans that he's making,
Right, yeah.
and so on. You're in rooms with people, and sometimes, you know, you do kind of feel that sense of like, you know, I'm here, you know,
Should I be here?
Should I be
Yeah.
here? There's a lot of experienced people, etc. But no, it was a really good event, and you
He's
know,
done so well.
I'm glad, and you know, I'm glad that we made it there. That we was invited. It was a distinguished
Yeah.
group, and I thought that portrait was amazing.
Amazing.
You know, the
Yeah.
portrait that they did of the founder
Yeah.
was amazing. Yeah, and I think the format was good. Food was good, and you know, I think
that the whole night was
It
was
was.
good. I think I was saying to you off camera that I really enjoyed the fact that nothing was too long. Everything was really sort of nice
it
and
was
punchy.
tight,
It was
yeah.
very, very tight,
Yeah.
very, very well put together. So I'm just have to say again, I ditto what you're saying. Really, really glad to be there.
Yeah.
And I don't think I can really speak with enough pride.
Yeah.
You know,
Literally.
enough. There's,
Yeah.
I don't think I've got
Being in the
enough
room.
pride
Yeah.
to be able to. Yeah.
Yeah.
it's a foundation. I was
Yeah.
thinking to myself, what would I be saying if I was up there? And you know, for me, it's like, look, we have, our ancestors, and, if you look throughout history, platforms have been removed.
Yeah.
So, there's a generation of people out there, a generation of kids out there that are not really standing on the platforms of their forefathers. And so they feel a bit lost, almost like they're starting from scratch. And I kind of feel like, as West Indians, sometimes we kind of identify with that, we're starting from scratch because we're the first sort of generation. We have to figure out how to make it work here, and then we can build from here. And this sort of generational wealth scenario, we've all been in school and around people who have benefited from generational wealth and all that sort of stuff. So for me, yesterday was like, this is a platform,
A foundation.
a foundation,
Nice foundation.
a nice foundation that okay. We were saying, that, we'd like to see some B's on the numbers rather than M's, right? But they're getting there, and I think if we all have this sort of community mentality of supporting, that could really 10x those numbers.
Absolutely. And I actually think like we should all be banking with them. Like tell a friend. Brenda Imana said, tell a friend to tell a friend. Do you know what I mean? There is a Black-owned community bank.
Yeah.
Let's support it. Let's
'cause
absolutely support
those
it.
other banks and when I think about in our business journey, Des, and times when we've had ideas and thought about. Remember, we used to have that hunting license with NatWest, and so on. Them, exactly, right.
Funny.
And when you think about our business. And what brought our previous business to was the financial crisis that brought that business to an end. Now, if we'd been banking with them, could have been a different outcome.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that last night and thinking, and with some of the ideas that we have for the future, absolutely we need to be talking with those guys and building that relationship.
For sure, we'll certainly be on the journey with them. For sure. And it's funny, I was talking to one of my daughters even last night, and I was just like, look, telling Monique where we come from and where we came from last night and so on. I said, it's a must.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You've got to go and open an account.
A must.
And I think there's a role that us here at GoodtoGive have to play in certainly working towards making sure that foundation is built on, in terms of our client base and so on, and the reach that we have, and it would be wrong not to.
Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting your podcast. I know you was well engrossed and you'll get back to it soon. But we've got a really important message that we want to give to you. Now, the likelihood is that your church needs to maximize its income. The only way, or the best way to maximize your church's income is through gift aid. Now, the likelihood is that you may not be claiming gift aid, and in many cases, you may not be maximizing if you are claiming. Now, as far as we're concerned, it's important for you to do so, and we'd love to sit and we'd love to talk with you to show you how to do that. Over the last 10 years, we have claimed over £18 million worth of gift aid for churches and faith groups across the UK. Why not be one of those? Get back to the podcast now, and we'll see you on the other side. So look forward to that.
Absolutely. So I want to talk about your business acumen, because I've said many times, anyone that I've ever spoken to about my business journey, you guys come up, because I think you have impacted my journey so much. And so I feel like it would be a miss for us not
a tear's going to come to my eye, man. Stop it.
us not to glean from that wisdom, right? And I came up with a topic for this because a lot of what you say to me is some ways countercultural. And sometimes my learnings from you most have come from proximity. And that's why I say to people, proximity is important. Because sometimes it's not a lesson, someone telling you something. It's watching the way people make decisions, what they say yes to, what they say no to, how they interact. And there's two types of knowledge, a bit of a business lesson for the people. There's tacit knowledge and there's explicit knowledge. You can get explicit knowledge from a training or a book, but what is harder is the tacit knowledge. You have to be around people to get that. You can't...
It's like an apprenticeship.
Yeah, right. So that's what I've gotten from you guys.
Yeah.
But in my learning from you, there have been things that you have said and that I've watched you do that isn't mainstream. Like if you were to go on Instagram and they'd be saying something different.
Okay.
And so I want to give you some either ors. And let's just talk. Let's just talk through it.
Okay.
Right? So let's start with, okay, when you're starting a business, should you start with a team or should you fly solo?
Interesting. Does that implicitly mean like take out finance to start with a team or grow organically? Is it kind of like, is that what you really mean?
I mean, from day one.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, have you actually started with a cash flow forecast? Have you written a business plan? Where are you? Because I have my thoughts on the whole business plan.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you that question. What level of planning? That's a good one. I haven't got it, but I'm going to come back to that. But the question is, there's a lot of, self-made, solo entrepreneur versus, and I've seen two ways. One, you just step out and you do it by yourself. No co-founder, no nothing. Just you, I'm setting up a business. Let's go. Versus, it's a collective of us, or at least a co-founder, and we're going together.
Well, okay, that's easy as co-founder because that's all we've ever known. Every business, even before when we were kids, we've always done stuff together. So,
but the only thing I would say, because not everybody has the luxury of having somebody that not only have they grown with, but they love. Right? Right? So not everybody has that luxury. You're holding your heart.
we're comfortable with those things there.
It's about people. The only people you can take on a journey with you are those who are like-minded. And you can't really work out who's like-minded unless you actually have a relationship with them. We've tried bringing people on journeys, that group scenario, bringing people on journeys with us, or having them join the party because we thought their mindset wasn't right. Their work ethic. I know this guy will be up till 2-3 o'clock in the morning and not sleep all night in order to get over a hurdle, and he knows I'll do exactly the same. We may not be doing it at the same time now, but so there's that trust and that belief that even if I'm not double clicking and checking on him, he's pushing in the right direction. And he's prepared to own up to his mistakes as am I. And that is like, those are some fundamental, foundational principles. I couldn't do it with anybody else.
So I guess team is the ideal. If you're asking us specifically, team, right? But like Des says, for other people, it's better you do it solo if you haven't got a positive team around you. But then, like I was saying earlier, if you're in a situation where, Des and I have always grown businesses organically. And when I was listening to Tim yesterday talk about the failure of his business, he took the approach of go out, get investors, build a big team, and then go, right? That's great if you really understand the area that you're in and you know that business is going to fly. Otherwise, it can crash very quickly.
Because you burn through, he said he burned through a lot of months.
And especially when you don't, because Des and I have often spoken about this, right? Where when you're younger in business, you're more preoccupied with the trappings, the nice office.
We've been there.
And all of those sort of things there. And all of those things that ain't bringing revenue in, Right? I mean, people will convince themselves that, well, in order for me to attract the top talent, I need to give them all of these. But the reality of it is there's fundamental things that you need to be keeping your eye on, especially when you're starting a business from scratch. And so I wasn't surprised to hear that, and it was easier for Des and I because we started organically, from the money that we had, and without taking a whole load of investment, and grow slow but steady.
But it's like you said, like what if you don't have anybody? Oh, you did answer that. You did say then go, then just do it. But I think one of the things, Cory, you said to me from the beginning years ago, I remember you saying to me, you can't do everything by yourself. You
Yeah.
need to,
Yeah, you need to know when you get to a certain point
Yeah.
to start delegating
Yeah.
and to start sort of trying to, because you also need to know your weaknesses. I mean,
Yeah.
Des and I are fortunate that we have skill sets that cover a broad range of business requirements,
Yeah.
right? If you're not in that situation, it probably explains why a lot of businesses fail because, you know, in order for you to get all of that skill set to be able to start a business and create that veneer of professionalism very quickly, it's either going to cost you a lot,
Yeah.
or you're going to have to cash in a lot of favors,
Yeah.
or you're going to have to get that money up front.
And you know,
and make
favors
it
only
happen.
go so far.
Exactly.
Which is why, you know, it's important to understand the numbers.
Yeah.
You've got to understand, you know, the service or the product that you're selling and what you believe that can. See, that's where I think a lot of people are unsure.
Yeah.
Right in the
Yeah.
earliest, they have what they believe is a great idea.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, really, any idea will work given enough time.
Yeah.
But it's whether or not you have the time.
You have the time.
We've always had the luxury, and you just hit the nail on the head here, whereby we were able to cover a number of what we needed between us.
Yeah.
And we understood the sacrifices that we were prepared to make day one, which actually meant, and I happily talk about it, which is, you know, no salary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, to
Right.
begin with. And then
Right.
eventually one of us took a salary because
Yeah.
it was like, hey, look, the situation was such that if I don't, I might have to go to,
Yeah.
okay, great, then you'll be the one that takes the salary
Yeah.
and the other one will wait. Do you know what I mean? And so on. And we had that. But on top of that, what we had was a unwavering belief. An unwavering belief
Yeah.
that knowing that it was going to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I know you've got specific questions there, so I don't want to go into that. But, you know, when you start your business and whatever, I mean, people talk about business plans and stuff like that, but you're probably better off with a mind map or something like that because things change so much.
Yeah.
And your ability to pivot and to kind of like, because you have a rough idea, this is going to work, but the market's going to tell you what's really going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if
Absolutely.
it's going that way and you're insistent on going that way,
way.
you're going down.
Yeah.
Right. So being able to kind of adjust on the fly, you know, change and adapt, you know, is like key to being able to survive. And that's one of the things that Des and I, you know, that feedback loop between Des being out there talking to people, this is what's happening. This is kind of like what people are. And, you know, me being able to either write code or to be able to change the service that we're providing and so on and try to adapt to that and try to find that middle ground. I think that sort of dynamic has served us well, but how to replicate that if you're like a single person, you know, that's to me, like, that's why I always say, you know, if you know good people or you're going out and you're networking with good people, sometimes it's just like what you would advise charities. Look, rather than starting a charity, maybe you should partner with someone
Yeah.
and try to find
Yeah.
somebody that you can, you know, it's like, look, this is the
team up with.
vision
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
could team up with
Yeah.
and say, look, I'm good with this, you're good with that. If we work together, but, you know, it is always those soft factors,
Yeah.
work ethic,
Yeah.
commitment,
It is.
Yeah.
all of those things
Yeah.
that, you know.
I want to be the man.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. How many people have, you know, we've spoken to over the years where, you know, you think, you know, you'd be a great business or whatever, or they've got an idea. It's like, I wouldn't mind working with you. You know, and they start recoiling back. It's like, well, I can help you. Like, well, no, you know, I want to do it for myself.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, okay, so you'd
Yeah,
rather have
yeah.
100% of nothing than
That's right.
than 50% of something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there's a couple of things there. So then how far do you go? Because some people say have a full-on business plan. Some people say go with nothing. So where do you go? Because you do need some semblance of planning, but you need the agility.
Cash flow is-
So what core things, if you're starting out, do you need? Like you said, cash flow statement. What core things do you need?
Well, should we just
Yeah.
say how we do it?
Yeah, typically we live around a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
You
Cash
know,
flow
cash flow,
spreadsheet.
yeah, cash flow.
What's the story?
Forecast, and that basically tells, because you already know what the service is or what the product is. Yeah. So once you understand that, and you need to understand how much it costs you to actually deliver that service, because that all goes into your what you're going to charge.
Yeah.
So once you know that and how much of that you're going to need to sell in order to cover your costs. So if it is a case where you need a team
Yeah.
and you're solo or you're part of a partnership, but there are other people that you need to employ for certain skill sets, then you just need to make sure that at the very least, if that's all represented on a spreadsheet,
Yeah.
the amount of nights where we've we've put what we've put together and it just looks absolutely fantastic. And then when you take a look at it, it's like, it ain't even realistic. Do you know what I
That's
mean?
what I was going
Yeah.
to say. I was just sitting there thinking, the biggest challenge is predicting what you're going to sell.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Working out the costs is the easy
Yeah.
part,
Yeah.
right? And you can kind of work on that and so on. But the biggest challenge Des and I've always had is like, what's that top number going to be?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And trying to figure that
How
out.
much of that are you actually going to? That's my best ticket item.
Yeah.
I need to really sell that.
Yeah.
But this is the one that everybody seems to gravitate to in the first instance. Now we're going to have to sell 5-6 times that amount in order to really make this even feasible.
Yeah.
Can we go without for 6 months or
Yeah.
can we go with, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can do that a lot more easily on a spreadsheet than writing a whole load of stuff down
Yeah.
on paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell you, one of the, and we might have spoken about this in the early in the podcast we spoke about. One of the greatest lessons that we learned, greatest lesson we learned was where we went through that type of exercise where we said, right, we were looking month 1, month 2, so on and so forth, and we put all of these figures in this spreadsheet. And at the time, we were going to NatWest Bank to actually see if we could get a loan.
Yeah.
And the guy, the business, those days you had a business manager and someone was prepared to see you. And I'm telling you, advice and getting the right people around you as early as you can has got to be the most important thing. And we sat down with this business manager and he looked at what we'd had on paper and he was like, looks good. If you actually manage to achieve that, you'll be doing all right. Said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you guys a facility. But that facility, you won't be able to use it until you've burnt through your own money.
Yeah.
And when you've gone through your own money,
Yeah.
then you can use my money.
Yeah.
Yeah? Because he goes, you will always make sure you want to get your money back before you start using mine.
100%.
Do you know what I mean? It was a great lesson in
Yeah.
actual fact. And it made us even more keenly look at our numbers to make sure that we understood what we were trying to achieve.
Yeah. And for me, it's those old school principles that I think we need to bring back. It's funny because on the weekend, my granddad was 100.
Nice.
And one of my cousins gave a testimony and she was like, when I was buying my house, went to granddad, could we have some money? Granddad said, what you got to match it. And that's how he's always been with us.
Yeah.
What are you bringing? It doesn't matter how much I have. What are you bringing? But it's them old school values that you don't really see when people speak about business.
And you know why they say that? Because you need to be able to share in the pain of loss. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That is really what it comes down to.
How much do you really want it?
And
It just immediately says, well, how seriously have you taken
Do you
this?
believe,
Yeah.
believe in what you're doing?
Have you been working towards it, or is this just something that's popped into your head?
Yeah.
But so starting with a spreadsheet, cash flow. That's always, I remember with my wife, and I was talking to her. She was talking about starting a business and so on. Sat down around a spreadsheet and showed her. And we worked out how much you're going to need to spend just to make this.
Absolutely.
And then it's like, forget that.
All of a sudden, it just got real.
Yeah, it got real
it
because
gets
it's like
real.
you could then make that decision.
It
It's like,
gets real.
so I'm going to have to sell like 2,000 of those to make £500.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not. I mean, okay. One of the things that we've always said we wanted to do is build a business that works direct with the public, because it is different numbers.
Yeah, it is.
You could do something, and if it goes right, it can reach millions in a short space of time. Whereas we've always sort of been business to business or that sort of thing. So it is a slightly different mentality.
Yeah, it is.
But but we have had a high volume business where it was low margin, high volume.
Yeah.
So we do know a bit about that.
Yeah. But I want to talk about also the salary situation, not paying yourselves, because that's another thing. If you look at Instagram, all of these people, designer labels, day one, entrepreneurs, it's a fallacy. Do you know what I mean? Like, for me, what jars me is the reality of entrepreneurship versus what you see online. And the reality is everyone wants to be an entrepreneur till you have to pay wages, because the fact of the matter is we pay ourselves last.
100%. That is the case.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that, because those are the sacrifices you need to be willing to make. Because yes, the idea is that we eat well at the end of it, let's not lie. But there's a process. So how do you manage that risk and reward type situation, especially at the beginning?
I think you have to be genuine about what it is you're trying to accomplish. If you're trying to accomplish, a brand or some sort of recognition and some sort of ego stroke, by pretending that you're doing a business and you're spending more time publicizing it than you are actually building the nuts and bolts of the business, then that's your goal. And your goal isn't to build a business that is actually functional.
Say that.
But then, one of the things that my friend Maria always reminds me of, I said to her many, many years back, is that if, that will come to, the whole salary thing will come to fruition when you start trying to make your business autonomous. Can your business run without you?
Yeah.
And that if you set that as your goal, then everything else flows from that. The way you document it, the processes you put in place, the fact that you have to hire people, all of that. And ultimately, if you're going into business to sell it and to still be basically employed by that business, i.e. sell your time for money, then you might as well just work for somebody else. There's a lot less hassle, right? The better thing to do is to, go through that pain, like you say, so you can get the real benefit, which is that the business is running and you're not necessarily in it on a day-to-day basis, but it's producing you an income. So it's an asset.
I put that on. It's the difference between being an actual business owner and being a business manager. No, I don't want to be a business manager. I want to be able to, and this guy loves the idea of it, and I, totally adopt it. Reports. Yeah, Kat.
You know.
Right. And, you want to be able to sit at a level and just be able to make decisions based on the data that is coming out of your business. That is ultimately it. And hopefully you have enough business acumen to be able to make the right decisions.
It's a lot easier to sit down around reports, and even if you've got other people around you, it's a lot easier for them to look at the business from that perspective.
Absolutely. First of all, I think we need to address the fact that a lot of people who are posting stuff on Instagram and saying this is how great my life is and so on, you only ever hear the good. You never ever hear the bad. Right. And a lot of those guys and girls, good luck to them. They're actually monetizing it, and they're it's a new way in which they're actually trying to make money and so on and so forth. And if it works well. But people shouldn't be fooled and believe. I hear a lot of people who are really depressed. They want to get away from watching it because they see it. It looks so magnificent, and they don't see how they could ever even touch it. And it's like you say, it's a fallacy. It's a falsehood.
We have to tell the whole truth.
Yeah.
I think all three of us here wouldn't have it any other way. We couldn't be anything but entrepreneurs.
No.
But let's tell the whole truth. Let's tell the full story, and that's my thing.
Yeah, it's grimy, and that's what the thing that's bothering me right now. Any opportunity I get to talk about politics is I'm taking is because people don't. And a lot of the people creating policy don't really appreciate the entrepreneur's journey and sacrifice. So when you do get to a place where you've accomplished something, suddenly you're the bad guy, right? Suddenly, you've got that and they haven't got that. So therefore, you are the problem in society. It's like, no.
Regardless of the sacrifices that you've made.
Exactly. That's not taken into account. And it's just looking at the end journey of where you've got. And now, we're going to tax it all away from you. And two, we need to help the most vulnerable. Yes, obviously we want to help the most vulnerable in society, but the best way to do that is to create a rich and prosperous society where there's enough money to be able to help these people. Just constantly taking from the people that are going out and taking risks and creating wealth and creating jobs. If you stop that process, then everything grinds to a halt.
And you hit the nail on the head, man. Risks. Because to start your own business, to employ people, to create opportunities, that's a risk.
You need to have optimism bias. You need
to
convince yourself that it's all going to go well and delude yourself almost.
That even when things are not going so well, you're still hanging on in there to make it happen.
Absolutely.
We've all had to be in a room where things aren't going well, but you've got to put that brave face on for the team.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They don't want to hear that there's a brick wall coming.
But it is that balance of relentless self-belief, right? Believing that no matter how it falls, I'm going to make it through. And being so tunnel visioned in that. but having the humility to be able to accept advice from the right people. And when you do need to change some things or hit behavior. So I think a lot of people struggle with that balance because you see a lot of the ego, a lot of which you absolutely need to. You need to believe that
Yeah.
you are
That's because they're mimicking what they think a successful leader needs to be. And they read these books and, oh, Steve Jobs was a bit of a, this or whatever, so I need to be a bit of a...
Yeah. But I tell you, there is a real challenge out there for people who are new to business, and even some who, even like for us, who have been in business a long time, is finding the right people to listen to.
That's
Ain't
it.
easy. Ain't
That
easy.
is
Do you think though that now? I mean, when you, I think we talked about this earlier or yesterday in the car or something. Where right now it's easier than ever. You mentioned training, and there are so many people that are telling their stories online, training.
True, there is that.
On YouTube. Maybe almost too much. You don't know where to start.
Yeah, that's one element. But I remember where we've gone through sometimes difficult times, and you sit down and you think to yourself,
Yeah,
you need to pick up the phone to speak to somebody. You want somebody to give you an answer.
Or almost make the decision for you because you don't know what.
And you'll be surprised.
Literally.
We've been in situations where we've known some good business people. Yeah. And I remember speaking to one of them one time, and I said, "Look, and you remember I told you when this was happening?" And he said to me, he goes, "To be honest with you," he goes, "you guys have all the answers."
Yeah.
It was like,
They didn't see us as people that they needed to advise.
Yeah.
And didn't feel that they could. If anything, probably felt that they might come for advice. You know.
It was, and that is why I've heard more recently that you need to make sure that you're not in your social circle, that you are not at the top of the smartest person or in your social circle. You need people that are like leading the way.
Absolutely. And for me, because I didn't have the co-founder kind of situation, coaches have been that. Because sometimes you get so in your head, like, and you're almost too close to it. Like if it was anybody else, you could figure it out. Like if I brought it to you guys, you could Kat, just do. But you're so close in the trenches that you need that kind of bird's eye view to kind of, and I think every entrepreneur needs that. Yes, you got to believe that you can do it, but you've also got to be humble enough to close your mouth and take some advice sometimes.
They're gonna tell you to do something that's out of your comfort zone.
That's
that when you're in it, you're not even offering that up because it is out of your comfort zone.
You know? Absolutely. So, personal brand or company brand?
Company brand
all the time.
All right, let's pick. Let's extract. Let's talk about it. Why?
Well, personal brand, if I pass on, then the brand's gone. If it's all about me, then I'm selling my time for money. It's not transportable.
I'd rather be part of something much greater than myself.
Absolutely. And I say that and I bring it up because I hear so often, and now it jars me, like that you need a personal brand. You absolutely don't. So let's just put that out there. You don't need a personal brand to be successful. In fact, if you're going after investment, people won't invest in you because it's like you are the asset. Do you know what I mean? It can actually work against you if you actually want to scale.
Or if you want to, if part of your exit strategy is to sell what you have, then you want it to be able to stand autonomously. You want it to be able to stand by itself.
How easily you just say exit strategy, like a simple thing.
Yeah, that's true. Like,
in our early days of business, we even know about exit strategy.
And I'll be honest with you, probably in the very, very early days, if somebody had actually come to me and said, what is your exit strategy and would you sell your company? I'd be like, sell the company? You crazy?
Exactly.
Nah, I keep that. I'm passing that too and I'm doing X, Y, and Z. No.
But it is true to say that if you don't have an exit strategy, essentially, it's very easy to slip into this sort of lifestyle business. So that's like
that's it.
That's like the sort of step up where, okay, you're not a solopreneur. Yes, you do have staff, but it's still a lifestyle business because you're in that business. If you haven't created that business such that you can sell it, and usually you don't end up becoming wealthy. I mean, obviously there's massive business, but generally like the sort of mid-sized business, you don't end up becoming wealthy until you have that exit
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
then you get that then you get
Yeah.
that big lump sum that catapults you above the, as I like to call it, the bullshit threshold.
Yeah.
Right. And then from there you can then go you know, and
Go again.
go again or
Yeah.
whatever. But you need that exit.
Yeah.
But that's a mindset shift, because even there's this black hair brand called Miel. Black woman set up this black hair company, and she recently sold it to Procter and Gamble. And I'm like, yes,
them
we need
again.
to see more of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to. So a lot of black people were like mad, like you sold out. But I think we need to shift our mindset.
Depends on what.
Well,
she
you know,
does.
it
depends on what she does.
Go on.
Sorry. I just think
Yeah.
because you know, I understand why there's because people want legacy brands.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
But like I was just saying, that exit strategy is her catapult to that next level.
Yeah.
It depends on what she does. If she becomes an angel investor or whatever, which is a lot of what people, when people get to that level, they start investing in other businesses and shares, you know, like that Nigerian, you know, belief, you know, you make one, you teach one or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of mentality. If she does that, then
Yeah.
What I would say is, you know, most organizations, if they grow to a level, they become an institution.
Yeah.
And as an institution, if the community looks at that as part and parcel of, this is our legacy, even though it may not affect them directly, other than the products that they buy from it. To lose that is like losing part of your heritage. And so it becomes a lot bigger than just yourself. You know, from that point of view, it's like I was talking to somebody last night and I was saying to them, I was like, you can imagine there's going to be a lot of other financial, you know, that are looking at what, you know, the PCB are actually doing. I'm thinking, can I get in on a piece of that? Because, and I'm like, that shouldn't really happen. Now, it's not for me to say, but I look at it as part and parcel of now my heritage and a foundation on which I want to build for our people, as it were.
Interesting.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting point because the arc of that, you know, it could be quite easy that they get swallowed up by a corporate entity. And, you know, how would the community feel about that? I do think, though, that the fact that community has been built into the name, right, you know, should be the anchor. The fact that they've got generational sort of it handed from one generation to the other.
It's an absolutely fantastic story, but you know,
it happens.
It happens.
It happens.
I mean, it happened. I can't remember what the brand was. It Martini? Not Martini. Martini, actually. The company that create Martini. I'm sorry, I'm probably going totally off piece here. But there was what was the Jamaican brand of drink?
Tropical.
No. It was an alcoholic drink. There was a particular.
No, it's not Jack Daniels.
I can't remember. But anyway, it literally, it was just one of those where it was traditionally Jamaican. It then got sold to an Italian company.
With the rum.
It was Rare Nephew. Rare Nephew. You know, and again, it was like Jamaicans generally just felt like their heritage was just taken away. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those kind of things there. I think we have to be careful, and some things have to be protected.
It's like the Mark Zuckerberg. At the end of the day, he's probably one of the last CEOs from that era where, you know, the .com boom or whatever, who didn't sort of sell out and stayed as a founder, still there at the helm. At the end of the day, you know, we have to be thinking long term as part of the foundation that we're talking about. And there are certain things, if you take that foundation and then you go and sell it off, the foundation's not there anymore.
It's gone.
Because, you know, you can't let other people tell your story because it's going to change. And so, you know, I think that, it would be a problem. And you look at that. And so just going back to PCB, that's a powerful story there. It's something that the next generation and the generation after that can look at and go, that's our people there that started something. And you can see what they've started. It's powerful. And what they've started is like somebody said yesterday, it's really just the beginning.
Just the beginning. Yeah. So passion or profit?
I'd like to think that passion leads to profit.
You see,
Nice.
I'm going to tell you this now. I'm going to tell you this now. No. I'm going to say this now. I'm going to be truthful, right? Because that was our philosophy very early doors. We've never been money orientated. We've never, it's just been the way it is. We always believe that, one, we don't want to work for anybody. 2, if we provide a good service, quality service, the money will come.
Yeah.
We love the kudos of being the masters of our own time.
Yeah.
Although sometimes I have to, when I look back at staff and everything else and all the work that we have to do to make sure that they can do their work,
Yeah.
I wonder who actually works for who.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother story, right? But for me, you know, if we had been different, if we had put profit first, right? Regardless of the service that we're offering, because we're always going to offer a good service, right? I think we offer exceptional service, and our client base really does speak to that. But you know, if we had put profit first, we'd be in a whole different spectrum right now.
You know what, Des? I think I hear what you're saying, and I just think to myself, the best answer is we need both.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I think what we lacked is when we were younger, because we were just like, we were risk takers, we was entrepreneurs, natural entrepreneur spirit. Yes, you're following your passions, etc., etc. But what we didn't have was that experience or that business acumen around us to
Yeah.
sharpen that up.
Yeah.
Like us now, with our acumen now, back then, we were saying this yesterday.
Yeah.
If we were like 25 now,
Yeah.
right? But you know, teleport our acumen that we've got right
Back
now,
to 24.
right? Yeah, we would have gone clear with the passion that we had and the acumen.
Yeah.
That was the thing. It's like what you were saying earlier. If you don't have those people around you
Yeah.
to give you that acumen, so that they could help you channel. It's like, guys,
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, the reason why I answered the question that way was because when Kat asked it, she said, is it one or the other? She didn't say, is it one and the other?
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in
So if
truth,
you had to choose,
if it
it's
had to
profit.
choose, it'd just be
Yeah,
like, look,
yeah.
you're a business
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
You can have all the passion in words. There's no
Yeah.
money there. Like what they're saying there, money answers all questions
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things. Yeah.
So if you haven't got the
Yeah.
money, then
Yeah.
what can you do?
I say that because I think when I started out, I was so naive. Even though I'd been like worked in corporate for like 10 years, there was this, you know, if you believe enough, if you're passionate enough,
Yeah,
if you're
that's-
like, and
what I'm
now
saying.
it's like,
it's the
can
romance.
you just show me the
it's-
spreadsheet?
It's
like,
the romance. It's the
you know
romance
what
of
I mean?
business.
I have
It's
seen
the
that
romance.
change. I've seen that change.
You know, yeah.
You know, over the journey that
Like-
you know. Remember when we first met her? You know, it's like, she's still in the corporate sort of like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Like,
and it's kind of you do have to go through this journey. It does
It does.
inject a lot of humility into
Yeah.
you to kind of like remove the rose tinted glasses.
rose-tinted glasses.
Yeah.
You know, so I think yes, passion is important. You need that social good element. I think it's important for all of us. We want to be contributing to our communities and societies, but please do the maths
Yeah.
as well. And if the
Yeah,
maths
yeah.
aren't working,
Yeah.
choose something else.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know that you just mentioned that, and that's one thing that just popped. Yeah, you know, a lot of people when you speak to them and say, "Oh, you know, you want to start your own business," they're like, "Yeah, but I need to find something that I'm really passionate about."
Yeah,
It's
no,
like,
no.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like,
yeah.
look, I didn't wake up and think, you know, I want to run a gift aid company.
Yeah.
You know, the point is if you like business, if you like the freedom,
Yeah.
if you like, you know, all of these things there, a business typically will encompass a whole load of things. If you like spending your time doing creative stuff, there'll be plenty of opportunities to do that stuff within your own
Yes.
business, regardless of what business it is.
Exactly.
Right? And then you can get other people to do other bits and pieces.
The truth is,
So,
we love business.
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But you tend to find most people who start a business will start with something that is kind of a hobby,
Yeah.
something that they actually enjoy. In the very early days when we started our first business, after the early doors business, music and that. But when we started it was IT. We were both IT consultants working in around the city doing various things. And we just enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And we thought, well, and I said, how can we work for ourselves and not have to worry about it? We said, no, let's just start that up. And that's what we did.
It's a natural thing to do. It's a natural thing to do. I think those people that are sitting in that situation where they want to do something, but they don't know what that is. I mean, when we started our incubator, the original Milton Matthew, right? Our target audience was like, look, if you're working as a professional in a particular industry or whatever, then why don't you take that professionalism, will help incubate your business and grow your a business around your profession.
Yeah.
So it does make sense to focus on something that you have a skill set in.
Yes, yeah.
But, you know, it's those people that are like, I want to do something, right? But I don't, I haven't found something that I'm passionate about yet. Well, if you haven't found that, then doesn't mean you can't start.
Yeah,
but just pick
absolutely.
something that you can make work.
Pick something
Yeah,
that you're good at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just pick something you're good at, and that's ultimately it, you know.
Yeah.
And then do the numbers around that. And sometimes it means, you know what, I can't offer the full set of that, but I can offer this. Start with this, and the rest will grow.
Start with what you have, right?
We started with, he had a PC, I had a PC. That's what we started with. PC, 2 monitors,
Exactly.
and some passion. Do you know what I mean?
And an idea.
Yeah.
And
Don't forget the idea.
we're winding down, but I got a couple more for you. Bootstrapping or VC?
It's kind of like what we was talking about in the beginning. So for me, it's bootstrapping. Although now, for us now, with our experience, we'd be more confident to do VC. Because, you know what you're doing. But if you're new, then for me, I think being able to test the ground, and there's a lot with the tools that are out there in the internet and all the different things, it's a lot easier to be able to test your theory out there, without taking the big risks. So some people are just about getting VC, making money out of that and not even really caring whether their business works or not. They just understand that whole, how the VC round A, B, C and all of that works. Whereas, that's not something
I think people need to obviously care, because the VC don't stay there for long. They don't give you all the money one time. It comes in drips and drabs, and then eventually, if it's not showing like it's going to be any promise, it's all pulled. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you don't get that next round.
Indeed. So you just have to be mindful.
And I think it depends on the scope of your vision, because if you want a business that you want to pass down to people, if you're getting VC funding, you're exiting. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean?
They want to pay that.
So it depends on what you want out of the business. Because if you do want something that you can pass down that's yours, you're not going to get that with, it's nice up front, you get all the money, but I guess it's that thing in business where you always have to count the cost, and the Bible speaks about this. There's a cost to everything, and so often, and there's a cost to bootstrapping even. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Slower growth.
Do you know what I mean? And so I think the moral of the story is count the cost. Do you know what I mean? There's two sides to the coin.
And I guess, and also the appetite for risk. So bootstrapping actually allows you to moderate your risk. And it depends. In the same way you would go and sit with a financial advisor, and that advisor will sit down and say to you, first of all, let's do a little risk analysis. Let's see where you are. Are you 10 at the risk, or are you 1? Do you know what I mean? Understand who you are, because sleeping good at night is important.
It is. It
really I remember when I was doing Forex trading at one point, and when I had money in the market, it was hard to sleep, because it was like, it's going up, it's going down, and especially I think obviously if you can't afford to lose it at that time, then it's
So what would you say to your 25-year-old selves? Because there's a lot of the funny thing is, before I let you answer that, a lot of people think the successful entrepreneurs are the younger ones, but those are the unicorns we see. According to the statistics, it's entrepreneurs that are your age that are most successful, right? But we don't hear, because it's not as glitz and glam as.
Well, we're not on Instagram in that way, are we?
You know what I mean? But actually, when you look at the data, they actually recommend you start a business later on in life. And that it makes sense.
Some big companies have started when
I guess that just boils down to the fact that you've lived a little longer, you have a bit more experience, the wisdom kicks in, and hopefully you're in a position to make better decisions.
You might have more assets, or
you probably got. It's true. I mean, when you think about it, our 25-year-old selves, in fact, I would have probably been 24, and you would have been 22 or something like that. You imagine. So we had whatever was literally on our backs.
Wow.
And I guess it's funny, although we were risk takers in terms of, we were happy to, we're believing ourselves, we're throwing caution to the wind, and we're doing this. We had no real experience of, going to go out there and get loans and get this and get that. I mean, I said we did go through a period of where we had to sit down and look at the numbers and really try and understand. But even then, our risk was only to you I mean, make sure that we had enough in the bank that you had 6 months, so you leave your job at that moment. Do you know what I mean? And then if it didn't happen, there was no plan after the 6 months.
Yeah, we basically just said, look, if it doesn't work after 6 months, then fine, I can go back and get another job. And
that was basically it. Yeah. Still at home. I mean, it was like you could take that risk. And in actual fact,
So the advice to 25-year-old us would be what?
Well, I guess the advice to the 25-year-old is, you know what? I would have taken more risk.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, really? I would have taken more risk. I would have believed in hiring better people, because this is another. And there's a challenge that a lot of people have, which is they are frightened to have better people than them around them, right?
Yes.
But I would say to my 25-year-old self, take that risk.
Yeah.
Get the money.
Yeah.
There was, when I think back, one of the things that I don't know if it's psychological or whatever, but maybe it's just me, but I always worried about whether people that were, more experienced, let's say, would even want to work for us. Do you understand? You see this young black in a tie and a suit trying to like what's his name? Tim was saying, he's like this big head. You got this confidence about you, etc., etc. Right? But would they want to come and work for you? Somebody who's worked in the city or whatever it might be.
I don't know. I didn't know that. You learn something new every day. I never ever felt like that. I just thought that, right, okay, we're doing what we can. And it's like, for instance, when we went and got James and James, I remember James had, at that point, he had left a successful IT reseller, and and both of us sat with him, met with him, and was like, look, come and join us. Sky's the limit. I mean, whether that was what you might have felt at that, but you were certainly talking a different talk. It was a different language.
It's more when we got going. So when you're actually doing like formal interviews, because James came for that's not slightly different. But when you're talking about like, all right, you need to get, I don't know, hire somebody, an operations director.
I think the difference there was we brought James on in the capacity of being an equal share director,
right?
And we knew that he could bring good business with him, and so therefore that would launch us to another level. And again, we're very much like, look, let's eat some pie rather than have a whole pie with just tin foil, right? Exactly. So it was a different. But I think if we were to we sort of go back, I think really pushing the boat out and getting as much capital as you can in order, subject to obviously your numbers and it making sense. Because, for me, hiring people in and having the right people in is certainly a catapult to it happening much more quickly than the because there's only a certain amount of time that you have before you do start to burn out.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, I think if one of the things I would certainly say if I went back would be spend less on rent and buy somewhere.
Yeah, that too.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that when I think about it, back
the amount of money we spent on rented offices back then, and at one point, I mean, we must have had about 45 people working for us back then.
Wow.
Yeah,
and we had basically 3 units.
Yeah.
And when Cory he spoke earlier in this interview where he spoke about, buy plush offices and things like that. We were entertaining, councils all over London to come down, huge corp. I mean, we were literally we weren't just an IT reseller, we were a solutions house. So we was doing business continuity, disaster recovery, stuff like that. So we were up against some big consulting firms. And we were one of the smaller, but we had some fantastic personnel. And we did have this sort of feeling like, what, we need to maybe get the offices looking plush. There was glass units here, purpose-built tables. I mean, staff came in and they were in luxury. No two ways about it. But you know what?
Worked. I mean, we got the business up to 17.5 million. So it's not like
true,
it wasn't working.
It did. It done what but profitability wise, it didn't help.
Yeah, I mean, the industry, what it is that you have to read. You can't just look here. You have to read where the industry's going.
Yeah.
And, you know, the writing was on the wall when HP starts coming after your clients. You know, 1 minute we're going after a 100-seater. Next year they're going after 50. The year after that they're going after 20,000 seats. And you're like, hold on a minute, we're going after 20,000 seats. So basically, you're our competitor. You can see where that's going. Margins are dwindling,
Just to
and all
put
of
some
that
context on that, you have the manufacturers who literally don't come down and deal with end clients, right? Business to business is dealt with the channel. So we were in the channel, and we would deal with business to business. And all of a sudden, when HP start feeling their margins are being eroded, they then reduce the amount, the level of client that they're going to be talking to. It's like, we're no longer just dealing with channel. We, in fact, will deal with channel, but we also have a business section. And so we'd be talking to our channel, our channel manager saying, our account manager saying, what's going on? It's got nothing to do with me. These decisions are being made at that level, and now they're, do you know what I mean? It was just,
I mean, so this is what I'm saying. You can, margin that business. We needed to have been visionary enough to pivot at the right time. And we, in actual fact, we did try to. But it was just, again, cash flow. If you try to move to a business model where you're getting paid within this amount of time to a business model where you're getting paid in that amount of time, you need to be able to fund that difference, cash flow difference.
Cash flows everything.
And we did. We went down invoiced. I mean, again, it's funny. Now we're talking about it. You actually said there's so much I'd go back and tell myself.
Exactly.
Invoice discounting. You be careful of that, and you get the right percentage if you're going to go down that road.
Exactly.
There.
It's easy to.
We tried to move from being an actual reseller, which the margins are quite small, to being a solutions house, a consultancy, which we were running both simultaneously. We kept them in the same business. We should have probably had one that was just a retailer and set a whole separate one up that was something
There's
else.
a reason why we didn't do that, though.
The
consultancy needed the accreditation.
There's
a whole load of
That's
things
what I'm saying. There's so much.
It's complex.
But you learn. I mean, to be honest with you, I thank God that I've been on this journey with this guy here, because there's been dark times where you sit. There's been great times. I remember being in the Tech Track 100. Do you know what I mean? There's a picture of us like that, fastest growing company in the UK or whatever it is. It was just like, it was great times, but then there were some dark times as well. But it's great to be able to share both.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Be able to share both. So
Absolutely.
Oh, God, there's so much I'd say to that guy.
Incredible. Well, you both are the embodiment of what we're doing at the Business of Church, and I think it was important for the audience every now and again to see the minds behind the podcast, because it is literally business and church. You are business, and the guests are church, and it's that coming together. And so I really just wanted to give the audience some insight into you guys, so they get to know you guys a little bit more, because often you're just asking the questions, but you guys have, as the audience would have seen today, have so much knowledge, such a wealth of wisdom to share. And so
just to add to that, there is, church is very much like business. The incoming, outgoing, books have to balance, as well as all the compliance. And believe it or not, there's even more compliance around charity and the way churches run. So, guys, be mindful, be very careful, and speak to the right people.
Absolutely. Well, this is the end of series 1, but we'll be back for series 2. It's been amazing.
It's been a journey. It's been a journey from the early doors recordings.
Can you remember?
Do you know what I mean?
The evolution of the podcast.
I want to give Daniel a little round of applause as well, man. You know what I mean?
Nice one, Daniel.
It's our cameraman. If you're, great guy. Yeah, absolutely.
Nice one.
Man.
Keep us all together.
And to Kat, man. It's been a fantastic
Trina, man.
Come on.
On the journey. Foundation.
It's been fantastic.
But no, love you guys. Always great to talk. This is the Business of Church.
Indeed.
Subscribe, comment, and just join us. Continue to join us on the journey.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Thank
See
you
you there. Thank you.